Let's be real. The world of AI content right now, it's a total gold rush. Everyone's yelling about the latest update, staking their claim, and the noise is it's overwhelming. It's pure chaos.
So if you're a creator in this space, you're probably asking yourself this one question, right? How in the world do you get noticed? I mean, when literally everyone is covering the exact same GPT update, the same new shiny tool, how do you actually stand out and, build an audience that doesn't just click away?
Now, here's the secret. You don't report the news. Nope. You turn all that chaos into a high-stakes gladiatorial match. You stop being a reporter, and you start being the ringside announcer. You're not just sharing information, you're framing it as a battle, a war, where every single update is a strategic move, and every new AI model is a brand new fighter stepping into the ring.
Okay, so that sounds cool, but how does it actually work? We're going to break down the exact blueprint from a channel that has this down to a science, Vibhav Sacinti. These guys have built a machine for turning that absolute fire hose of AI news into stuff you can't stop watching.
So what we're talking about here is what we call the AI war formula. It's this brilliant strategy that takes all that messy, chaotic industry news and boils it down into a super simple, compelling story, a story of competition. It stops being about, hey, what's new, and it starts being about, okay, who's winning? And believe me, that tiny shift is everything. It's what keeps people glued to the screen.
And you can see this in action when you look at their content mix. Just check this out. A whopping 75% of their stuff is either weekly AI news or these comparative battles. So they're not just reporting facts, they're constantly, and I mean constantly, framing everything as a fight. And that's how they make a simple software update feel like this huge, dramatic, can't-miss event.
All right, so how do you actually do this? It all starts, and I mean all of it, in those first 30 seconds. That's your make-or-break moment. So let's dive into the first pillar of this formula, the triple hook. And if you watch their videos, the pattern is so consistent, it's like a recipe. First, you get a bombshell about one of the big players. Then, boom, a second update, usually something that contrasts with the first one to build that tension. And finally, they hit you with the chaos assertion. That's where they basically say, this week was insane, you can't possibly keep up, but don't worry, we've got you covered.
And the language they use, it is so provocative. Think about a line like this. Today, OpenAI is the one hitting the panic button. That doesn't just tell you something, it creates a whole crisis narrative, right? It makes this giant, faceless corporation seem human, and it tells you they're freaking out. And you're just sitting there thinking, oh my God, I have to know why.
And the reason this works so well is because it's just a masterclass in psychological triggers. You've got the pattern interrupt, phrases like stop, just stop, that literally snap you out of your mindless scrolling. Then they create a curiosity gap, teasing something juicy that's coming at the end, so you have to keep watching. They inject urgency to make you feel like this information is critical right now. And then they give you a benefit preview, promising you'll walk away with a new skill. Any one of these is pretty powerful, but when you put them all together in the first 30 seconds, it's almost impossible to look away.
Okay, but a killer hook is worthless if the rest of the content is a snooze fest, right? So once they've got your attention, the whole structure of the content has to keep that competitive energy going. And that brings us to pillar number 2, the battle structure. Just look at the difference here. On one side, you've got your standard kind of boring news report. The title is like, New AI Models Released, and it just lists features. Yawn. But on the other side, you've got the AI war format. The title is something like GPT 5.2 versus Gemini 3 Pro, 10 brutal tests. It's not just a list, it's a series of challenges, actions, and verdicts. At the end, there's a winner, there's a loser. It's a story, and that is so much more engaging. The secret sauce to making these battles so easy to follow is the structure. They always break the content down into these numbered chunks, 10 brutal tests, the top 5 updates. What this does is it basically creates a mental checklist for you, the viewer. It makes really complex stuff feel totally manageable, and it gives you this nice sense of progress as you're watching. You always know where you are in the story. All right, so we've got the hook, we've got the battle structure. The last piece of the puzzle is wrapping it all up in a package that's instantly recognizable and consistent. That's pillar number 3, brand identity. And this is all about building trust with your visuals.
And their thumbnails? They are not random. They follow a super strict formula. First, you've got instant conflict. They'll slap 2 competing logos right next to each other. Then they build credibility by showing you the receipts.
Actual screenshots of the user interface or some crazy benchmark numbers. And finally, they use these dark movie colors with bright neon accents and these huge, high-impact words like free or destroyed. It's all designed to stop your scroll and promise you some serious drama.
Okay, and here is a little tactical detail that is just brilliant. You know their call to action for their exclusive WhatsApp community? It's not at the end, like everyone else does. Nope, it's in the first 60 seconds. Now, why would they do that? It's simple. That's when your attention is at its absolute highest. They're snagging their most engaged, most dedicated fans right after that triple hook has done its job. So smart. Okay, so we've totally pulled apart this AI war formula. Now, let's put it all back together into something you can actually use. Here's your actionable blueprint to build your own system. Really, it just comes down to a simple 4-step system. First, create your own blueprint, like a one-page cheat sheet for what your format is going to look like. Second, build out your checklists for everything, pre-production, production, post-production, so you're not guessing. Third, batch produce. Use your templates and knock out 4 to 6 pieces of content at once. And finally, and this is key, you gotta track your analytics. See what's working, what's not, and just keep refining your system. And look, at the end of the day, remember what the goal is here. It's not just about getting more views. It's about solving a huge problem for your audience, which is AI fatigue. It's a real thing. When you can take that overwhelming chaos and turn it into a clear, structured, exciting story, you're not just another voice adding to the noise. You become the essential filter that people rely on.
So there you have it. That's the blueprint for turning boring news into a can't-miss narrative. The only question left is, what AI battle are you going to report on first?